Hi, everybody. It's Melissa Campanelli, co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle, and I'm so excited to have with me today the one and only Sallie Krawcheck, the CEO and co-founder of Ellevest, which is a digital financial advisory firm for women. I'm so excited to have you here today, and I would love to just kind of jump in. So let me first start by asking you to just briefly tell us a little bit about your career journey. I know I know we only have 15 minutes, but
I know
just sort
I
of,
could go on and on.
yeah,
Well,
just sort of how you started, and I know you were in the financial world, and then how it led you to Ellevest.
All Wall Street, all the time, all investing. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. Never imagined I would work on Wall Street. Just went there because was the cool thing to do for a period of time. Moved to New York, work on Wall Street. So I was miserable at Salomon Brothers, doing investment banking in my 20s. I became happy doing equity research, investigating companies, making stock recommendations in my 30s. My claim to fame is I became director of research and then CEO of Sanford Bernstein, which was a research firm that, like the other Wall Street firms, also did investment banking. I identified a conflict of interest of having people both advise corporations at the same time they're advising individual investors. Can't do a great job, can't give great advice to one if you don't for the other. The individual investor wants to buy a stock low, but the corporate wants to sell that same stock high. I got us out of the research business. We lost a lot of business. There were some who thought we were going to go out of business because of not having that diversified income stream. Then came the internet crash of 2000, 2001. And Eliot Spitzer, the New York Attorney General, revealed the conflicts of interest, that people had been recommending stocks but not believing in them, saying they were POSs. And our business exploded. I was on the cover of Fortune magazine as the last honest analyst. My next few jobs were I was brought in to turn around the troubled, because of the same issue, research business of Citi. And so I ran that in Smith Barney. I was chief financial officer of Citi. My second claim to fame is I was fired in the financial crisis of 10 years ago because I was the only Wall Street executive that reimbursed clients for losses, not because you should do that, but because there were products we had missold as low risk. It was very little money in a downturn. It lost all its money in the downturn. My CEO boss disagreed with me. The board agreed with me, but you disagree with your boss or the board, you lose your job. So that was number two. And then number three, I ran Merrill. Bank of America brought me in during the financial crisis. They bought Merrill Lynch, the Thundering Herd, to turn that around. I did, and I was reorged out a couple of years later. Despite the fact it was reorged, we're going in a different direction. You're not a cultural fit. We have a white guy who's in his 60s, who's never run one of these businesses before. We think he can do a better job than you. And so from there, they didn't use these exact words, but we all know what "you're not a cultural fit" means. And so from there, I founded Ellevest. I became passionate about the concept of getting more money in the hands of women. I was tired of the fact that the investing industry blamed women for not investing as much. You're too risk averse. You're not good at math. You're not good at investing. None of those are true. While being a business that's 85, 90% men, while building a business, investing that is sports-like, that, doesn't reflect what women are looking for, that is about alpha and trading and making money in the sport of it. The industry symbol is a bull, for goodness sake, so that's a phallic symbol. And so I founded Ellevest, which I thought was a dumb idea, and a bunch of people thought was a dumb idea. Women don't need their own thing, but did so when I realized that women underinvesting versus men, not the gender pay gap, not the pink tax, women underinvesting versus men cost the women who may be listening to this podcast hundreds of thousands, for some women, millions of dollars over the course of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's what really struck me, when I did a little background research on Ellevest, it's clear that there was some white space there, in terms of women and their investing. So why is it important for women to have a better understanding of their finances and to become better with their money managers?
Absolutely crucial. Money today is women's number one source of stress. The taking action, the act of investing the act for some of saving, is the number one driver of women's confidence in their ability to achieve their future goals. It's not how great your job is. It's not how much education you have. It's not your relationship with your significant other. It's not asking for the raise. It is that singular action that you personally can take, and we can all invest. So it's, we're not dealing with, nice to-dos. We're dealing with key important things. In fact, today, when you talk about money for men, they talk about the power and the independence and the financial freedom. Women talk about loneliness and just not understanding and feeling isolated and feeling inadequate. Women, we get messages across our whole lives that we are bad with money, that we are spendthrifts, that we need to budget. In the home, we see our mom budgeting. In the home, we see our dad investing and making the money in traditional families, which are still alive and well.
Right.
And so we years ago, exercising went from being an unattractive thing to do to part of, it's an attractive female characteristic to be in shape and fit and working out, and not for everybody, but it's, there are things that society's changed on money. Today, women would prefer to talk about literally anything than money, including their own death and certainly including sex. And so why is it important? It's important to go from a point of stress to a point of confidence. And it's further important because we all know that the Me Too Time's Up movement would not be nearly what it is if, quite frankly, women had as much money as men do. We all know that at the base of this power imbalance in a capitalist society is money. We all know that not a single woman would have looked at that. Harvey Weinstein. Right? If she had as much money as he did.
So true.
We just know it. I mean, we just know it. It was the young gal at the beginning of her career, not the
who needed to make money, who hadn't invested or even knew how to invest,
and who
didn't even think about being independent,
and
financially.
who couldn't afford to report him. So, we're talking about much bigger issues here than, although it is important, this mutual fund versus this ETF, and there was just nothing for us as women. And the worst thing, and then is we actually were socialized that something for women is inferior. And I know your listeners thought it for women, that's dumb. I don't know, when we launched Ellevest, Invest Like a Woman, and a double-digit % of the reactions we got from women were negative. How dare you? This is sexist. I don't need your dumbed down remedial financial. I just don't need your marketing. You're going to charge it. And then the women would go in and look at it and say, and work through it and say, actually, this is more sophisticated than what's out there right now. But the shocking but not shocking thing is not one single woman said for women it must be better. Not one.
Right. Wow. And I'm going to skip around on the questions, but I mean, so that's sort of, you mentioned earlier in our conversation about how, some of the women that are listening to us, a lot of them are, senior level women. Do you find that they, should work with, could get something out of Ellevest? I mean, I guess I don't know, what the demographics are, but I'm just wondering if you're finding that the senior level women also are, need to be part of this.
Great question. Do you know, when we started digital first. In fact, when you introduced a digital investing platform, we're now more broad-based than that. So where we started was for, I was thinking about a gal in her 20s, 30s, early 40s, doing well, but not feeling like the investing industry was approachable to us. So we started with a digital first offering. I had a light bulb moment when a wealthier, successful woman asked me about starting a wealth management business, a premium business and a wealth management business. So I'm like, we just have so much going on and there's such an opportunity and I don't want to, and she said, but Sallie, and you know how sometimes successful women can be, she was a little mean, actually. She's like, you have to do this because I want to be part of it. And okay. And she said, and this will stay with me forever, I'm tired of investing my money with companies at which I would not allow my daughter to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just, whoa. And beyond that, she said, for her, it wasn't, the Ellevest digital first goal-based approach we'll work to get you to buy this home at this date and have this, have the baby by this date and start the business, very goal-based, retire by this. Some of the wealthier women like, no, I don't need that. But what women are often looking and not getting in the traditional investing industry is investing for impact. And not everybody, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But, when we sit here today after, yet another mass shooting, women increasingly are saying, what is my money supporting? What are my investments supporting? What do I want them to not support? And what do I want them to support? And one type of impact investing that I love is gender lens investing. Weird name. And what it's come to mean is to invest in women, invest in businesses run by women or big companies with diverse leadership teams, or get loans to women. And that too, when I first came across, I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't know. And then it hit me that I'm actually gender lens investing today. I'm just investing mostly in men, mostly, by the way, overwhelmingly in white men who are amazing. I've been married to a couple of them. I think they're amazing creatures. But, just in investing, you want to be diversified. So today at Ellevest, we've got 3 offerings. We have the original, which is digital investing, 0.25 percentage point fee on assets, a premium offering that's a $50,000 minimum, 50 basis points, half a percentage point. And with that, you get a certified financial planner, access to a certified financial planner and executive coach. And then we have a high net worth business in which you get a financial advisor. So 3 different offerings, all really for women and our allies, really people for whom the existing system hasn't worked, that approach investing in a very modern way.
And is that where they could learn about the Global Women's Leadership Fund? I'm really interested in that with the companies that have 2 or more women on their boards.
Yeah, and so that is something that we offer through Ellevest. I was an owner in that. I no longer am. I wanted to make sure there were, any appearance of any potential ever conflict of interest. So I no longer am an owner of that, though I love it. When I was, by the way, anything I would get from it, I donated to Girls Who Code.
Right.
So that's a mutual fund. So a collection of investments that invest in the top-rated companies for advancing women, not anybody's opinion on that, not anybody like, oh, they've got a great women's network, this is going to be amazing, they've got great diversity, but no, who's actually doing it today?
Right.
And so we put in the top 400 companies in the world as ranked by, number 1, the percent of their board, number 2, the percent of the leadership team that are women. Those are the main ones. And then there are weightings for if they have a female CFO or CEO. We launched this 5 years ago, and it's been doing terrific. In fact, the night before we launched, I'm like, uh-oh, what if it underperforms and then I ruin it for women everywhere? But it's been terrific, and that is offered not individually through Ellevest, but as part of our investment portfolios. It can be part of the offering.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you how that's fit in. That's really interesting. I love that. So I have to tell you, I heard you speak at the Girl Boss Rally in LA, which I attended with my 15-year-old daughter.
Aww.
And she was so impressed with you. You were her favorite speaker, she told me. And her favorite thing that you said was that it's okay to have the latte. And I know that kind of phrase has sort of taken off on the internet. So maybe you could just tell our listeners a little bit about what you mean by that.
Well, I actually wrote about it on the Fast Company website, and they told me it went viral. And the title of the article was just Buy the Effing Latte. And the reason that I wrote it is there were a couple of instances. One was a tweet from Chase that was sort of expense shaming people. It was one of these memes. Me, I don't know why I don't have enough money. Your bank account, don't buy the latte, invest the difference. And then me, gosh, I guess I'll never know why I'm not rich. And then there was a book that came out called The Latte Factor, which essentially it was an inspiring story of a barista who takes a young millennial woman on a journey of discovery and the barista, he thought he's rich, he's buying a latte every day, he thought he was a barista, but he owns the coffee shop. No, he actually owns buildings around like oh my gosh. And of course it's written by these middle-aged white guys, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're being mansplained to. And so I about just lost it. I was actually on a business trip, and you know that meme of the cat who's typing at the computer? That was me. I was
Yeah.
like, ah. And sort of my points were, number one, first of all, you know, I grew up as an analyst. The friggin' math doesn't work. You give up a $4 cup of coffee a day or a $5 cup of coffee a day in order to be a millionaire at the end of it. You have to earn investment returns on that money that are like 6 times what individual investors earned annually over the past 20 years. So yeah, it just doesn't work. Number two, quit guilting us. You know, life is not easy every day. And if I want to have a friggin' latte or a manicure or a facial, don't friggin' shame me. And by the way, nobody's telling the guys, don't buy the 6-pack, right? Don't buy the craft beer. Don't, you know, buy the, you know, power tools. There's this underlying sort of, you know, sort of message of, ladies, you're being flippant. Number three, you know, it's all, you know, so many of those messages about money for us are about budgeting, as opposed to, again, the higher order. It's making us feel guilty. I mean, even in, you know, and it makes us feel like, I'm so dumb at math, I can't get it right. I mean, the example I always use is Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, so savvy in every way, bought so many shoes she couldn't afford the apartment, right? No way friggin' Carrie Bradshaw bought too many. I mean, like, she's just not that dumb. Okay, she's not that dumb. There's just not that many shoes. And so it sort of opens up the whole gender nature. And then I guess the final thing, so you've got me all riled up again. The final thing is it ignores the real issues. The real issues are that young women and young men, but young people today are saddled with crushing levels of student loans, not their fault. That for women, it takes them longer to pay it off. That we have the gender pay gap, the pink tax, you know, that we know, you know, mandated national paid maternity leave, which is where the gender gap starts in pay and women leave the workforce. And I mean, it's us in friggin' Papua New Guinea who don't, like, this is what we should be working on. The fact that we are this cruel as a country, that we don't give us time to recover after we have a baby, which, by the way, unpaid maternity leave pays for itself in a year because we're more likely to return to work, and so they don't have to pay to replace us and train our. I mean, so to me, it was just like, really, guys, you know,
it
really,
it trivializes it, you know, the whole point. So yeah,
the message I got from women is that we were articulating something that they sort of knew, but had never articulated to themselves. Like, you're right, this advice is condescending. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just loved it. And yeah, she was very excited about starting to invest. I know she has to be 18 to do it, but you know, she's really excited about it. So I feel like you definitely, you know, turned something on in her, which
Mom, you can open an account. Right.
Oh,
now. And just, you know, it can be in your name, but you and she can watch it together.
Yeah, well, that's what we're planning to do. So
that's great.
So I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit to kind of go off this subject. I know that you published a book a few years ago called Own It, The Power of Women at Work. I can tell from talking to you the reason that you wrote the book, but maybe you could just give our listeners some key points that they could take away from it. I mean, anything that just jumps to mind is the main focus.
Well, look, you know, part of it, part of the underlying point of the book is the power of diversity is diversity. And that means bringing our whole selves to work and being ourselves. And that so much of the advice to women of how to get ahead at work is so much about changing ourselves. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to, you know, when it's not your nature to speak up, to keep being told to speak up. And you want to be a little bit more risk aware, but you're told to, you know, take on more risk. You're told to raise your hand. You're told to act like something that you're not. And so, you know, we wanted to firstly dig into the research of diversity is driven not by bringing in people who are different and telling them to act the same. It's driven by diversity itself. And how powerful diversity is in driving superior results. And so I feel like, you know, and I think the other point would be that we can't do it on our own. There is so much advice for women that feels empowering and feels good. If you've got this, girl, and if you do X, Y, and Z, if you follow this recipe, you too can be incredibly successful. But that's not what the research shows. It's not what the research shows. And what we can see, right? We've all been doing it. I mean, who hasn't been doing that? And yet the gender pay gap isn't closing. And yet, it's still a big celebration when we get a new woman CEO in the Fortune 500. And then one leaves, by the way, and she doesn't have a female, successor.
Yep.
So what the research says is there's strength in numbers, and that to be successful, a key driver is having a large and diverse network in which you're active. And that actually is enough for men. For women, you need it even one step further. You sort of need a squad. And a squad being a group of close-knit female professionals, sort of, who you can lean on and they can lean on you, because the gender issues still are significant. And so I think I'm playing around with this concept of the money lies we're told as women, right? And one of them is that we're risk averse, which just isn't the case. But we internalize it.
Right.
And another is, you got this, girl. That, this lie that we're sort of told, that work is a meritocracy, the cream rises to the top, work hard, get your A's, follow this recipe, and you will succeed, is not true. Work is not a meritocracy.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on Wall Street, supposedly the number one meritocracy in capitalism, and it is not diverse. And everybody's like, yeah, well, that's just because I guess guys are just so much better at trading and all that stuff. And it's not that guys are not good at trading. It's the lack of diversity means they lack the full information they need in order to be smart all the time. And we only have to look at the financial crisis to see how badly Wall Street missed what was happening.
Yep. Yeah. And I like your point too about with the squad too, the importance of having successors and having people, once you leave, you oftentimes you're still the only woman at the top. So, sort of the idea of coaching and leadership within companies to move women up is like so important. We cover that all the time here. So 2 quick sort of rapid fire questions to end with. And that one is, and I'm sure you'll have a great answer here. What would you consider the best advice that you ever received?
Well, I think it was, work hard. I mean, I wish it was something sexier than that, but I learned very early. I hoped that I would be smarter than everyone else. And I wasn't, but I could work harder than anyone else, particularly when I loved my job. And success and hard work are not necessarily correlated every week or even every year, but damn, it's funny how when I look at my business school class and my, the folks who went into Solomon Brothers with me at 87 and Bernstein, how those people who loved their work and so therefore worked hard have been the ones who, I got one guy I know who runs a friggin' movie studio. I got another guy who's like the number one banker in technology. And when you look at what unites them, it was the hard and risk taking, all the stuff, but the core of it of hard work matters.
Yep, that is great advice. I mean, it's true. And then lastly, can you tell us about one goal that you're focusing on, for the end of the year, next year? You can tell me one that's either personal, professional. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear what you're thinking about.
Well, I am all about getting more money in the hands of women. When that happens, I can't find anything bad that comes out of it. I just can't. And if you think about where we are, to harken back to our discussion earlier, as a country, that balancing out these money inequities, and I'm talking about the gender, but racial as well, can moderate our society. When women have more money, the economy is stronger, society is fairer, their families are better off, nonprofits benefit more. And so I am focused on moving the needle in getting women to invest, because that can move the needle on this. Our challenge is, in order to get from here to there, we've got to break through those societal messages she's received her entire life. Wow.
That's a lofty goal, but I'm sure you'll get it. You'll be able to do it with all of the hard work and everything else that you have that you do every day to
Thank you.
help women. So anyway, well, thank you so much for your time, Sallie. This has been such an honor to be able to talk
Such
to
a
you.
pleasure. Such a
And
pleasure.
and hopefully we'll see you at some point in the city
Great.
or at one of our events or anything like that. So thanks a lot for your time, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at wirlc.com/podcasts for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.